Question for you. If I took away every character from every movie, game, anime, pop culture, what would your art look like? Would you even be able to create anything? And that is the topic for today, the pop culture comfort trap. This is something I've been thinking about for a while now, a long time, but I've never really talked about it to anybody. Ponder it to myself once in a while, and I figured, hey, probably make a good video. Good talking video. Could be working on this dude again. Having some issues, as you can see. You can see cracks forming yet again. I may have forgotten about it for a day, so the clay has dried out, but do not fret. I had talked to a good friend who knows pottery clay, and she helped me out a little bit. So we're just gonna leave the cracks for now, okay? And we're gonna do some detail work on this guy, and then afterwards, we're going to spray some paper towel down and wrap this sucker to help rehydrate the clay, because I'm an idiot, and I should probably do that same thing to the other part of this sculpture. But so far, though, I am liking where this dude is going. Got the eyes in last time, got this mouth. So we just have to kind of get into the finer detail here and make it pop. Now I just gotta think about this because I want to do kind of like some folds and stuff, but at the same time, I don't know, I don't have a lot more clay to add, so we might just have to carve some away. Or I might have some clay somewhere that I can grab from, but not a lot. I also don't want to add too much more clay onto this, especially with the cracks, because it could pull and make the cracks worse. We'll see what happens, but let's get into it, shall we? The pop culture comfort trap. Recreating is safety. So I see a lot of artists, especially online, I see a lot of them making characters that already exist, Might need something a little bit sharper because this clay is pretty stiff. And again, that's my fault, so. They're creating things that already exist. Like they have a favorite anime or a favorite show or cartoon, right? And they're redrawing that. Let's take anime, for example. They're redrawing that anime character over and over again. And you see this all over like Instagram, right? People drawing what they know, right? Because, recreating that kind of stuff, it feels safe. You're not really using your imagination. The concept is already there. Draw some lines here for where I want the wrinkles to go. And they're really not challenging themselves to use their creativity or think outside the box when it comes to their art. And when you're creating something out of thin air or using references, trying to create a new character can be very uncomfortable because you're not sure what you're doing, how it's going to turn out, right? So doing that can be pretty uncomfortable. I know I feel uncomfortable all the time when I'm doing it, but that's also the fun of it, and that's the challenge when you're an artist, is creating something from your imagination. Now, it's okay to be, creating characters that you love, anime characters that you enjoy, sculpting Freddy Krueger, Jason, or whatever you enjoy, right? There's nothing wrong with that. The gripe that I have is that's the only thing that you see people do, is just creating already existing IPs, I guess, right? No, there's no originality to it. Man, I've seen like hundreds of sculpts of Freddy Krueger, and people just doing that because, it's like their favorite horror villain. I'll draw out the lines a little bit better with this and just see. Hopefully I don't hit any armature below. And again, there's nothing wrong with, wanting to sculpt Freddy Krueger or an anime character, or draw, paint, or whatever. Doing that all the time, you're not really practicing your craft. You're really not expanding your artistic skills, I should say, right? Because you're stuck doing the same thing over and over again. You go on Twitch and you see a lot of these artists who are drawing like their favorite furries or their favorite anime characters, and they're not really diving into their creative or their imagination, I should say. They're not testing themselves. When you're creating something original from your mind, right, it exposes skill gaps Whereas if you're copying something that already exists, it's, it's easy to cover that up because you're trying to copy it, perfect. So you have that there. The poses, you can find a ton of poses online for the character that you're creating. But when you're making something from your mind, then you really have to rely on your knowledge of creature design, let's say, or anatomy. Anatomy is a huge one. And by doing that, you're really testing yourself. You're really pushing your brain to try and think outside the box. And like, what is this creature going to look like? If it's a realistic creature, what are you using from the real world to create that creature? Are you... Like, this guy is a mixture of like a slug and a mosquito, a bit of a caterpillar in that, right? It's like a spine leech kind of thing. That's why he has this big sucker. And myself, I only ever really do original characters, right? I've tried sculpting Shen Sonic one time. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't turning out great. I like the whole analog horror of it, but it wasn't... I was just getting bored of it, to be honest with you. I wasn't really using my imagination because I was just trying to copy it from what I've seen from the videos. Boom. I do like this. We'll have to carve it out a little bit more, round off the edges, and maybe add some more clay to really make it look voluptuous, right? A little bit voluptuous, a little wrinkly and rolly. So when you're original, you're really relying on your own knowledge, like I said. When you're making something familiar, it feels rewarding. It really does. Like if you're drawing something, let's say, I don't know, you draw a really good Berserk, amazing anime by the way, Berserk panel or image that you saw, right? And it works out. It looks great and it's amazing. And you get this rewarding feeling like, yeah, that looks really good. It looks exactly like from the anime. So that can be a trap in itself, right? Because you do that, then let's say you post it online and people love it and it does great. And then you get that rush like, oh yeah, so I should probably do more of this. And so you see people, they really lean into the whole creating what's already out there, right? To make that Berserk, maybe they move to another anime or do more characters from the anime, a really good Pennywise painting, and they continue to do that kind of pop culture kind of art, which, again, there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, that really stunts your creativity and it really stunts your growth because you're not using your brain to conceptualize a new character, right? And I always say that if you're going to be an artist, right, do your own stuff, do your own characters, man. Like me personally, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of, like drawings of Pennywise and all that. And I like it. I'll like them from time to time, but I'm more fascinated in more like originality, more original artwork. Something that can get me inspired. And there's some amazing artists out there that do that, right? And a big thing when you're doing original work is that you're actually building an identity for yourself. I need to get some clay here. Where did I put it? You're building up your portfolio. I mean, if the piece you're working on, you want to add to your portfolio or not. When you are making, let's just say pop culture stuff, right? You can't really add it to your portfolio because it's not your art. It's not an original piece. And you want originality, or I guess people want to see originality. People who work in studios and game companies and all that kind of stuff, right? They want to see what you can do. And if you're not flexing your creative mind enough, well, then you're kind of stagnant. You're not really progressing through of what you could be, right? Yeah, of what you could be. Especially beginners. Beginners chase recognition. And again, we're coming back to the whole social media thing here. When you do something people know, people like it, you'll want to do more of that stuff. Oh, what a great artist you are. Amazing drawing, amazing sculptor. It looks just like from the comic books or just right from the TV show. And original work doesn't do as well as the pop culture stuff, right? Let's be honest, right? Especially on social media, people do enjoy what they know. I'm just gonna try and blend this in. I don't know how this is gonna react with the already kind of dried out clay. I don't want to spray it because usually I say keep it moist, but this is cheap clay, pottery clay. it's a little bit more difficult to work with. So the outside might be tough, but the inside might be a little bit more softer. You know, if you make this outside more wet, but then the inside, it's not getting that, so it's going to dry out as well, right? It's different rates of drying is what I've been told. So with that wet, damp cloth or paper towel, we dampen that, then we wrap it up, and then we let that moisture soak into the clay to try and bring it back. It's a really fickle line that you gotta juggle this pottery clay with. Usually I use like wet clay, WED. It's a clay that Walt Disney Company had made for them back in like, I want to say the 60s. Because they needed a clay that would last longer and not dry out so fast. So I think they mixed in glycerin and some other stuff. And I've used it. It's amazing clay. I just wish there was a spot that sold it here. And unfortunately there isn't, because Canada sucks. This clay, it's cheap. It's affordable. And I'm not paying $80 for shipping. So that's always nice. That's always nice, right? But like I was saying, you can get into this trap of just doing these pieces for social media. And social media itself is a trap, especially for artists. You know, you're always looking to see what will work. You know, what people will like. Even if you're not enjoying doing that type of artwork, like doing the pop culture stuff, but you know it does well on social media, you know, people will tend to just stick with that and not pursue creating original art pieces. Now, I'm not saying, you know, give up entirely, just focus on original artwork, you know, give up drawing your anime characters and all that stuff. I think a good approach is to, especially if you want to keep it fresh, is to have a good mixture of both, right? Don't neglect practicing your art, like practicing your anatomy, trying to conceptualize a new character because you're flexing your creative mind, right? Because you don't have that reference. Reference is key, by the way, but that's a topic for a whole nother video, because some people think reference is cheating, which is completely absurd. A mixture is good. And if you're trying to push for social media and you're trying to grow your, I don't know, Instagram, right? Mix it up a bit. You know, maybe do a drawing or a painting of, I don't know, like your favorite characters. And then the next post, do like an original art piece, right? You know, do a good mix. So you're still doing what you're like enjoying, but you're also, you know, building up your artistic skills when you're doing something different, right? Now, Jordu Shell, amazing artist. He did art for like Predator movies, and he's a sculptor. He does a lot of monster masks, works a lot with Distortions Unlimited, which is like a Halloween company. And he also touched on this a little bit about doing your own original characters, because, you know, we've seen Freddy Krueger drawn 1,000,000 times. We've seen SpongeBob reiterated or drawn 1,000,000,000 times. We you know, because it's popular stuff, and people they gravitate towards what they know. But if you really want to grow as an artist, you have to focus yourself on original art. Your original art. You know, get down and dirty, flex those brain muscles. And yeah, you might be disappointed with what you come up with the first couple times, but it's totally normal, right? Especially if you haven't really done it before. The more you do it, though, the better you're gonna get. Like, way better, right? And so, maybe in the future, when you approach wanting to do another pop culture drawing, art piece, maybe you want to do a little twist on it, you know? Example. This was a couple of years ago. I'm pretty sure I have a video on the YouTube channel here. I did nightmare versions of some Pokemon, which was a lot of fun. And SpongeBob characters. So instead of just like recreating, you know, oh, I'm just going to sculpt a Pikachu because I like Pikachu or Snorlax or whatever. I decided, you know what would Pikachu look like if a parasitic alien host came down and took over his body and mutated him into this giant beast? You know, do something like that. Even if you're doing that, you know, trying to come up with an idea to kind of stylize an already existing IP, you're flexing your brain muscles, you're being creative, and you're not just following, you know, what the character already looks like. You're putting your own style onto it. And that's also fun and acceptable. You're not doing the same thing everyone else is doing, you know, you're doing something different. Like the Nightmare Pokemon or whatever. What would this anime character look like if he, I don't know, a zombie or something? Yeah, welcome to the whorehouse. Everything's horror here. I couldn't think of anything else to really think of, but yeah, zombie, right? How we looking? He's looking wrinkly. Hooray! You'll see a lot of influencers, art influencers. A lot of these videos saying if you want to grow your art account, focus primarily on what people already know. And I just think it's just the wrong advice. It's a trap to get you stuck. And the last thing you want to do is get stuck. Right? You want to grow as an artist. You want to make your own thing. Do your own thing. Just blending all this in. Using kind of like the round part of this brush to kind of make the fold a little bit more round. Yeah, this is like leather, past leather hard. You don't want it to get past leather hard when you're drying out clay. Like when you dry out clay, that's how you get the fine detail. You dry it out a little bit, but this went too far. Oops, my bad. But hey, that was my little rant on the whole pop culture comfort trap. It can be dangerous. It can stunt your growth as an artist. But again, I think the perfect mix is, to mix it up. You can do a little bit of both, right? Create your own original characters. If you want to draw Wolverine, again, draw Wolverine. Or, do a hybrid. Mix it up, right? What if Wolverine was, like, taken over by a parasitic demon? Or something like that, right? But anyways, guys, if this helped you out, be sure to leave a comment down below. Have you fallen into this trap before? Are you looking to do more original artwork? If you have some art you'd like to share, definitely let me know. I'd love to see you guys' art. And yeah, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.